Welcome learners. This week we are going to discuss the topic on education and training of the tribals. This is from block 3 unit 2. We are going to begin with this unit this week. Let us first go through the objectives. After reading this unit, the learner would be able to understand the concept of education. He will also explore the relationship between education and tribal society in India. The learner would also know the importance of training in education and tribal society. And finally, this unit will help the learner to analyze educational problems of scheduled tribes in India. Now, we all know that India is an immensely diverse country with many distinct cultures, traditions and values. These differences, which are the product of long historical practices, have been linked with the experience and practice of certain groups such as scheduled tribes in India, who are defined in terms of their ethnic identity. The ethnic identity of tribals locates them in a specific condition distinct from that of their fellow citizens. Their distinct position in the caste-ridden society leads to differential treatment, sometimes guided by the idea of discrimination, marginalization and subjugation in India. The scheduled tribes in India have been experiencing discrimination and marginalization in their respective social contexts. So, the history of the tribals has been one of exploitation, subjugation and marginalization. They seek, in other words, opportunities that might enable them to lead a reasonably dignified life with some protection against conditions that render them vulnerable to exploitation and destitution. So, in this context, education plays an important role in improving the condition of scheduled tribes in India. Now, let us try to understand the term education. The term education is derived from the Latin word educare, which means to nourish, to cause to grow. Education can be defined as a cultural process, the way in which each of the newborn infant born with a potentiality for learning greater than that of any other mammal is transformed into a full member of a specific human society, sharing with other members a specific human culture. Education, in the largest sense, is any act or experience that has a formative effect on the mind, character or physical ability of an individual. In its technical sense, education is the process by which society deliberately transmits its accumulated knowledge, skills and values from one generation to another. So, this is due to the fact that the role of education in the traditional societies was largely confined to cultural accomplishment. The changed socio-economic condition, particularly after independence, has witnessed opportunities for the tribals to receive education and employment and have provided them with new avenues to express and assert their equality. In this context, education is linked with the notion of empowerment. There are 3 criteria of education. Let us see one by one. Firstly, education implies the transmission of what is worthwhile to those who become committed to it. Secondly, education must involve knowledge and understanding and some kind of cognitive perspective which are inert. And thirdly, education at least rules out some procedures of transmission on the ground that they lack willingness and willing to volunteer on the part of the learners. The National Policy on Education 1986, Government of India, underlines the importance of education by treating education as the unique investment in the present and future that leads to all-round development, material and spiritual. Now, let us see the status of scheduled tribes and education. The scheduled tribes in India occupy the lowest rung in the education ladder. The need to improve literacy and education levels has been identified by various policymakers, academicians, and social activists as a priority area for action to improve the overall status of the tribals in India. This is because education has the affirmative contribution towards building tribal life. Education as a potent tool for the emancipation and also for the empowerment of tribals. So, the greatest single factor which can incredibly improve the status of tribals in Indian society is education. It is primarily regarded as the instrumentality for improving the condition of backward, and the elevation of the backward is seen as one of the most important social product of education. It is indispensable that education enables tribals not only to gain more knowledge about the world, but helps them to get status, positive self-esteem and self-confidence, necessary courage and inner strength to face challenges in life. Apparently, it also facilitates them to procure a job and supplement the income of family and achieve social status. It is a cornerstone of tribals' empowerment because it enables them to respond to opportunities, to challenge their traditional roles and to change their lives. So, education is also looked upon as an investment in human resources for income generation in any community, in the sense that in primarily agricultural community, build up a member of a family capable of earning income from sources other than agriculture. So, the role of education is not only just limited to giving young people access to jobs and a decent living wage. The admission of disadvantaged groups to education and training program is the part of the wider concern of promoting the educational processes throughout one's life, the indispensable condition not only for a durable integration for a job market, but also for full and active citizenship. Moreover, in most cases, education helps to eradicate the transmission of poverty from one generation to the next generation. So, education is regarded as an integral part of the empowerment process. Empowerment of the tribal community means capacitating tribal communities to secure access and control of their land, forest and water resources, as well as to sustain and promote viable alternatives for security of their livelihoods. Empowerment thus is an interactive process whereby tribal communities are enabled to participate actively in local governance decision making that affects their own life situation. Let us see what are the positive impact of education. The education facilitates the processes which will enable tribal to develop an analytical capacity for assessing their external and internal environment impacting on their own communities. It also develops confidence and capacity to articulate their interest and perspective, thereby participating in decision making processes leading to better governance. It also helps to develop skills to initiate local relevant alternatives so that it will help to improve their livelihoods and challenge external pressures. It also helps to value self and community history with a critical appreciation of traditional knowledge systems. Exploring the other dimension, when we look at the modern education, it can also have negative impact on tribal societies. The negative dimension of education is based on the fact of complexities which are associated with the entire process of educational development. So, education has different connotations on tribal society based on the respective social context. It is also closely linked with the process of modernization in response to the conservative tribal society in India. When we see what are the negative impact of education on the tribals, it is based on the way in which the present educational system in India has been structured and operated. Its design has an urban middle class orientation that has imposed on the entire state both in terms of structure and content. As tribal communities of India are closed in nature, their culture, tradition and value system clash with modern culture and values that are the outcome of the present educational system. So, there is a wide gap in terms of the concepts and value systems that tribal children learn in their environment through socialization process and what they are expected to learn in school curricula. The tribal children find a complete disconnect between what they see in their socio-cultural environment and what they learn in schools. Consequently, they become disinterested and drop out. So, this demonstrates their apathy towards modern educational system. If you look at the census figures, the literacy rate for scheduled tribes in India improved from 47.1% to 2001 to 59% in 2011. Among scheduled tribe males, literacy rate increased from 59.2 to 68.5%, and among scheduled tribe females, literacy rate increased from 34.8% to 49.4% during the same period. The literacy rate for the total population has increased from 64.8% in 2001 to 73% in 2011. So, here we can see there is a gap of about 14 percentage points in literacy rate of STs as compared to the all India literacy rate. The gaps in literacy rates in respect of persons, males and females for the years 91, 2001 and 2011 show clear progressive decline. So, when we see the scheduled tribe youth literacy rate, it has increased from 59.2% in 2001 to 75% in 2011. Further, there is an increase of 11% in ST male youth literacy rate. The ST female youth literacy rate has shown a significant jump of 20% in 2011 as compared to 2001. However, still gaps exist between scheduled tribe youth literacy rates as compared to all population. Now, let us see what is GER, the gross enrollment ratio. The details of gross enrollment ratio for ST students at primary, upper primary and elementary levels for years 2014-15 to 16-17 indicate that there has been decline of GER at primary, elementary, secondary and senior secondary levels in 2015-16 and 16-17. The GER for ST girls has increased from 93.2% in 2014-15 to 97% in 2016-17 at upper primary level, 71.7% in 2014-15 to 74.4% in 2016-17 at secondary level, and 37.6% in 2014-15 to 42.6% in 2016-17 at senior secondary level. However, at secondary and senior secondary levels, the GER has progressively increased. Also, there is improvement in scheduled tribes GER in respect of higher education. Now, the Ministry of Tribal Affairs has initiated a number of schemes and programs for promotion of education among scheduled tribes. They are Akaliva model residential schools and scholarship schemes. So, now let us see what is the Akaliva model residential schools. The Akaliva model residential schools were being set up in the states, union territories under the Special Area Program of Grants under Article 275(1) of the Constitution of India. Each school has the capacity of 480 students. The objective of EMRs is to provide quality middle and high level education to scheduled tribe students in remote areas, not only to enable them to avail of reservation in high and professional educational courses and get jobs in government and public and private sectors, but also to have access to the best opportunities in education at par with the non-ST population. It is now a separate central sector scheme from 2019-20 onwards. The Akaliva schools will be on par with Navodaya Vidyalayas and will have special facilities for preserving local art and culture besides providing training in sports and skill development. As on 31/12/2019, 438 EMRs, EMBDs have been sanctioned by the ministry in various parts of the country, out of which 284 EMRs are fully functional and the remaining EMRs are under various stages of becoming functional. Now let us look at what are the scholarship schemes by Ministry of Tribal Affairs. It has 5 scholarship schemes, fellowship schemes for scheduled tribe students. National Fellowship, National Scholarship and National Overseas are central sector schemes which are funded by Government of India directly, whereas pre and post metric scholarships are centrally sponsored schemes, that is the Government of India is funding through state governments. The pre-metric scholarship for needy scheduled tribe students studying in classes 9 and 10, the post-metric scholarship scheme, National Fellowship for ST students, National Scholarship for toppers, that is who top at the graduate level and postgraduate level, then National Overseas Scholarship for ST students. Now let us look at all the schemes in detail. The pre-metric scholarship for needy scheduled tribe students who are studying in classes 9 and 10. The objectives of the scheme are to support parents of ST students for education of their wards studying in classes 9 and 10 so that the incidence of dropout, especially in transition from the elementary to secondary and during secondary stage of education, is minimized, and also to improve participation of scheduled tribe students in classes 9 and 10 of pre-metric stage so that they perform well and have a better chance of progressing to post-metric stages of education. Now let us see the post-metric scholarship scheme. The main objective of the scheme is to provide financial assistance to the scheduled tribe students studying at post-matriculation or post-secondary levels to enable them to complete their education. The scheme has been revised from 1/7/2010 with some modifications. The scheme is open to all ST students whose parents' annual income is rupees 2.5 lakh or less than that from 2013, and the scholarships are awarded through the government of the state, union territory where he or she is domiciled. Moving on to the next fellowship, National Fellowship for Scheduled Tribe Students. The objective of this scheme is to provide fellowship in the form of financial assistance to students belonging to the scheduled tribes for pursuing higher studies such as MPhil and PhD. The scheme has been started from the year 2005-06. This scheme covers Indian universities, institutions, universities, colleges included under section 2F and 12B, 28, 112B of UGC Act, and also deemed to be universities, which is included under section 3 of the UGC Act 1956 and eligible to receive grants in aid from UGC, and also those universities, institutions, colleges funded by central state government, and finally the institutions of national importance. These institutes also provide fellowship for the ST students. Now next, another scholarship which is called National Scholarship Scheme, that is for the toppers at the graduate level. The objective of the scheme is to encourage meritorious ST students for pursuing studies at degree and post-degree level in designated top 246 institutions whose parental income is less than 6 lakhs. The scheme has been started from 2007-08. The total number of fresh scholarship each year is 1000 from the financial year 15-16. Now moving on to the next scholarship, that is National Overseas Scholarship for ST students. The main objective is to provide financial assistance to students selected for pursuing higher studies abroad for post-graduation, PhD and postdoctoral research programs. 17 scheduled tribe candidates and 3 candidates belonging to particularly vulnerable tribal groups can be awarded the scholarship annually for pursuing their post-graduation, doctoral and postdoctoral level courses in abroad. The grants are given to the selected candidates directly by the ministry through the Indian missions abroad. Now let us sum up. So in this session, we discussed the concept of education, relationship between education and tribal society, the status of education among tribals, and how government addresses the problems of education among tribals by various programs and schemes. Thank you, learners. Hope to meet you in the next session.